Marcus Chen's consciousness returned like a sledgehammer to the skull. The sterile white light above him pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat, each flash sending daggers through his temples. He tried to move his arms, only to discover the metallic restraints binding him to what appeared to be an examination table. The last thing he remembered was the mining station on Europa going dark. Then the ships, sleek obsidian vessels that moved like liquid shadow against the stars. His crew had fought valiantly, but whatever these beings were, they possessed technology that made human weapons look like stone axes. A series of clicks and whistles echoed through the chamber. Marcus turned his head, ignoring the protest of his stiff neck, and got his first clear look at his captors. They were tall, at least 8 feet, with elongated limbs that bent at impossible angles. Their skin had a translucent quality, revealing the dark fluid that served as their blood, flowing through visible vessels. Most disturbing were their faces, smooth, featureless, except for 3 black eyes arranged in a triangle and a mouth that opened vertically instead of horizontally. One of them approached, holding what looked like a crystalline probe. It chittered, something to its companions, and Marcus caught the unmistakable tone of scientific excitement. He was a specimen to them, nothing more. The alien extended the probe toward Marcus's temple. That's when training kicked in. Marcus had spent 12 years in the Colonial Marine Corps before joining the mining consortium. The Zephyrians of Kepler, Form 42b, had taught him that the human body was capable of incredible feats when survival instincts overrode rational thought. The restraints were tight, but they were designed for a different physiology. He dislocated his left thumb with a sharp twist, sliding his hand free just as the probe touched his skin. The alien's 3 eyes widened in what Marcus assumed was surprise. It had exactly 1 second to process this development before Marcus's freed hand clamped around its elongated throat. The creature made a sound like escaping steam as Marcus used it as leverage to snap the remaining restraints. He rolled off the table, still gripping the alien, and scanned the laboratory for anything resembling a weapon. The room was vast, filled with bizarre equipment that hummed with alien energy. Dozens of examination tables were arranged in neat rows, and Marcus's stomach lurched as he realized many of them were occupied. Humans, his crew members, lay unconscious under the harsh lights, wires, and tubes connected to their bodies. The other aliens in the room began moving with sudden urgency, their limbs flowing like water as they reached for what were unmistakably weapons. Marcus had perhaps 3 seconds before they turned him into cosmic dust. He spotted a bank of what looked like control panels along the wall. If this was a laboratory, there had to be some kind of power source. Marcus threw his hostage at the approaching aliens and dove toward the controls. The first energy blast missed him by inches, leaving a smoking crater in the wall. The second grazed his shoulder, sending white-hot pain through his entire arm. But Marcus was already at the control panel, his fingers dancing across alien interfaces with desperate intuition. Humans had one advantage that few species in the galaxy possessed. They were exceptionally good at breaking things. Marcus began yanking cables and smashing crystalline components with his bare fists. Sparks flew from the damaged systems, and the steady hum of machinery began to stutter and fail. Emergency lights bathed the laboratory in hellish red. One of the aliens shrieked something that needed no translation. It was calling for reinforcements. Marcus grabbed what looked like a power coupling and hurled it at the nearest energy weapon, shorting it out in a shower of sparks. The laboratory's main power grid was clearly failing. Containment fields around various specimens began to flicker, and Marcus heard the blessed sound of human voices as his crew members began to wake up. "Sarah!" he shouted over the chaos. "Tommy, get up! We're leaving!" His crew, those who were conscious, began struggling against their restraints. The aliens, caught between containing their escaping specimens and dealing with Marcus's rampage, were clearly unprepared for this level of chaos. Marcus found what his Marine training identified as an emergency power switch. Every complex system had one, regardless of who built it. He slammed his fist down on the crystalline surface. You see, lights died completely. Emergency power bathed everything in intermittent red flashes. In the darkness, Marcus heard the distinctive whine of human-made weapons powering up. Apparently, the aliens had been careless with their storage protocols. "Marcus!" Sarah's voice cut through the chaos. She was free, helping Tommy and the others escape their restraints. In her hands was Marcus's own sidearm. "Catch!" The weapon sailed through the air. Marcus caught it with practiced ease, checking the charge indicator in one smooth motion. 40% power, enough to make a statement. The aliens had regrouped near the laboratory's main entrance, blocking the obvious escape route. But Marcus had noticed something during his rampage. This was a research facility, not a military installation. These beings were scientists, not soldiers. "Cover me!" Marcus shouted to his crew. He sprinted toward a bank of equipment that his engineer's eye had identified as atmospheric processors. If he was right about their function, energy blasts lit up the air around him as he reached the processors. Marcus adjusted his weapon to overload and jammed it into what looked like a primary conduit. The resulting explosion sent him flying backward, but it also blew a hole in the laboratory's outer wall. Alarms shrieked as atmosphere began venting into space. The aliens, caught in their own decompression protocols, scrambled for emergency suits. Marcus and his crew, already moving toward the breach, had precious seconds to escape. "Emergency airlock 50 meters to the right," Sarah called out, her mining suit's sensors still functioning despite their captivity. As they fought their way through the damaged facility, Marcus couldn't help but smile grimly. The aliens had expected a passive test subject. Instead, they got a human. And humans, as the galaxy was slowly learning, had an unfortunate tendency to turn any situation into a fight for survival. Behind them, the laboratory burned with alien fire and human fury. Another species had learned a valuable lesson about underestimating Earth's children. The war zone he'd created was just the beginning.